going on, everybody? We're back with another episode of Corner to Copa. I'm here with my co-host, Coach. What's going on, man?
Not much, not much. Busy season now for local tournament weekends. So
Got to keep you busy out there. But the Tigers were able to salvage the week, taking 2 of 3 from the White Sox after losing a couple games to Atlanta 2-1 and getting blanked 7-0 in the last game, which of course had the morale of the fan base down quite a bit, especially with Tarek Skubal getting attacked pretty bad in that final game in Atlanta during the day. But yeah, like I said, the Tigers were able to take 2 of 3. They won the first game 2-1 with a 2-run home run by Carson Kelly. They lost on Saturday, and then we had our typical offensive outbreak on a Sunday, where we ended up scoring 13 runs, and everybody got a piece of the action. But obviously, it would have been nice to just sweep the White Sox at home, but we were not able to. Get it done on Saturday, but it was certainly fun for everybody to kind of bat around a little bit. And Reese Olson got some run support on
for
on
once,
on Sunday. But we'll touch base a little bit on what bats have been hot and which ones have been cold. Obviously there's enough cold to go around, but we do have some folks that are getting busy. But what did you see? What did you see throughout the week?
I was pretty much largely caught the Atlanta series, and I know we kind of touched on it briefly in the last episode leading into the week, and I think we ended it with saying, no Ronald Acuna, no problem. They've won a World Series without him when he tore his ACL the last time, so this is still a dangerous team, and there wasn't. None of the games were really high scoring. I know they touched up Skubal in the final matinee game where he got touched up for about 4 or 5 runs in that start. It's a tough lineup, though. You still have some big hitters in Azuna, who's having essentially a triple crown here right now, and Matt Olson. So that lineup is still lethal even without Acuna. But offensively, it was just anemic down there. 2 runs in 3 games, and to allude to the Carson Kelly late homer on Friday night against the Sox, I mean, he doesn't hit that. We're looking at 1 game winning this week. I mean, that's how abysmal this week could have been. So, I mean, I think lucky is the right word to take 2 out of 3 from Chicago, which also saying that is also doesn't exude much confidence right now. So yeah, a little bit more competitive against obviously we'll call them the cellar dwellers. That's what the White Sox are right now. But it was good to see Sunday. The guys kind of have some fun on a getaway day. Wish they would share some of those runs with some other games, but I guess we beggars can't be choosers, and we got to take what we can get at this point. But hopefully, the series win over the weekend will hopefully roll them over into something a little more consistently competitive coming up this week as they head into a little bit more tougher stretch coming up.
Absolutely. And when you talk about luck, I mean, the end of the game on Friday was literally a base running blunder where the guy didn't realize how many outs there were. I think it was not Kreidler. Bierling had a routine fly ball in center field. And of course, he's thinking that the runner, that he knows there's 1 out and that the runner is obviously not just rounding the bases, but
right.
He recalled
We've
just
seen Javi
hearing
do that.
he heard some people yelling, because this is a frantic opportunity to double them off in a routine fly ball, and obviously they let him know that the runner on first had already rounded second and was going to have to re-round back around second to get back to first, and he was out by a mile, of course. But when your team is having a historically bad year like the White Sox is having things like that just happen because you just kind of you just kind of check out from everything. And we all know baseball is a thinking man's game, and when your head's not on tight, you're gonna make mental errors like that. So luckily, because it was still a close game. It was 1, and they had a runner on, so that game was very much still in reach for Chicago. And so we kind of looked out in that regards. Obviously, we didn't need the help on Sunday, but yeah, we certainly got some good fortune. But yeah, just as a whole from the last week, the good and the bad and the ugly. The bats, obviously, we only scored 2 runs in the entire Brave series. We scored one and one, and then 0 in the last game. We got a lot of guys that are struggling. Kryler is struggling mightily. McKinstry and Badu were able to make things happen on Sunday, and but outside of that, I mean, pretty much all Badu's doing is walking. He has
Yeah.
quite a few walks, and I guess I don't know. It's confusing because the amount that they pitch around him. I mean, he's getting some type of respect from not only the pitchers but the umpires, because a lot of times he's taking pretty borderline pitches, and I feel like the average ump is going to make you lift the stick off your shoulders when you're hitting one whatever. You're walking quite a bit, and just before I got an opportunity to say something about him, he hits a rocket out yesterday. So
Yeah, I
uh,
did see that.
he just continues to just show just enough glimmers of potential that, like, if he ever got to a point to where, and most of this, he's only got 6-7 hits in 15 games, but the majority of the hits that he's getting are extra base hits. He had the
Hmm.
home run over the Green Monster in Boston. He hit a home run yesterday, and he hit a triple when he got called up for that short stint against Houston. He had a triple in that game before he got sent back down. So the power is there, and the plate discipline is there. He's just not consistent enough. If he's not hitting the ball out, he's rolling over to that first base side with a lazy ground ball. So but that's as far as Badu is concerned. Rogers, it has, his consistency. He had 1 hit yesterday, but for the most part, he's getting outplayed at the plate by Carson Kelly pretty convincingly. Um, as far as the good, Colt Keith, continues to produce. I think he's hitting well over 300 in his last at least 7 games. He's hitting well over 300, but it just goes to show that, because he had an opposite field home run, and when the Tigers go with the pitch and are able to hit the ball to the opposite field, that's when we're most effective, and we're making the best use of our at bats. Um, but yeah, outside of that, I mean, the front office, Scott Harris and whatever influence that Illich has over over the organization, they are heavily being scrutinized because and we've talked about it off air, but they pretty much conceded the season. They're likely to be sellers. And we'll elaborate on it a much more, but it's a foregone conclusion that Flaherty will be on the market. And just hopefully, with him continuing to pitch at a nearly all-star level, hopefully we can, recoup something from him the way we were able to do with Lorenzen, and get a guy like a Hayu Lee who's making a lot of noise right now. But anything else that you want to touch on as far as the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah, I'll dive down a little bit of the numbers here real quick. So again, we're gonna keep saying it, and we'll see what happens at the end of the season. But that 5-run marker is still the golden standard right now. They're 25-4 when they score 5 or more, and they're 11-37. And I mean, a lot of it came with the Atlanta series. Let's be real, contributing to that portion. I kind of want to take a little bit deeper into this current month. So June 1st to the 13th, they scored 47 runs, and they only scored 1 or 0 runs twice. So they were putting up some runs. I'll say this, those 2 weeks or so, they were competitive. They were putting runs on the board. Certainly not lack of effort there, but since June 14th through yesterday, they're averaging almost a whole run less. So they're averaging 4.27 runs, 47 runs over those first 13, 14 days. Since then, 3.3 runs per game, only 30 total runs, and they've scored 1 or no runs 6 times in that stretch more of recently. So it's flipped completely on them recently. But we're in the dog days of summer now, and this is kind of the stretch where a lot of teams are either going to put themselves into more of a serious contender wild card talk, or they're going to fall and fade to the background. And yeah, I think you hit it right on the head here. There were some other numbers. Kreidler since June 14th to 22nd, not counting some of the weekend games. He was 0 for 14 with 6 Ks. McKinstry since June 12th was 0 for 18 with 8 Ks. And Jake Rogers since June 11th had been 1 for 22 with 7 Ks. And Baду since June 8th had been 0 for 13 with only 3 Ks. And to your point that you alluded to with 6 walks, again, all prior to the weekend series against Chicago. But yeah, I'm right there with you in terms of the front office. It was kind of disappointing to see some of those things come out. Again, we'll talk about it a little bit later on. But it's just disappointing to hear that some of that stuff was being leaked. I don't say leaked because it seemed like there was some direct conversation, but to kind of reveal that a little early in the summer is a disheartening. But to jump back onto the Cole Keith train here, yeah, I got some numbers for you. I think a lot of us are going to be supportive of this here. He had 8 multi-hit games since May 15th, and 5 of those games he had 3 hits or more, and he had a few. I think 2 were 4-game hits, including more recently, just over the weekend. So he's raised his average to 243 after he started out through the end of April at only 160. May he batted 343, and this month he's cooled off a little bit, 258, but a little more in line with kind of what he's hitting now. As of May 15th, he was batting 171 with a 234 OBP, 197 slugging, 431 OBPS with no homers, only 3 doubles out of 20 hits, 8 runs, 10 RBIs. Since then, he's batting now collectively 243 of the 292 OBP, 336 slugging, 628 OBPS with 4 dingers, 35 hits. Since then, from May 16th through June 23rd, 6 doubles, 13 runs, 13 RBIs. We know you touched on it probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. His exit velocity and even the outs that he had were hard hit balls. Well over half of the balls he put in play were hard hit, 95 plus exit velo. So you called it. I got to give you the credit on that. He's finally putting it in between the chalk lines. It's paying dividends for them right now, and they need something good to hang on to. And I think he has been, over that last 6 weeks or so, has definitely been the most consistent and improved positional player from a hitting standpoint. So that's been really good to see.
We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit more, and we're going to get to the roster talk. And to just wrap things up about Cole Keith, I don't know if it's the correlation of the hitters around him being successful and him just having crazy breakout games, or if it's the games that he's really having like a lot of success, whether that they feed off that. But I just feel like it's one or the other that's just seems to correlate. Like, I mean, he had what do you say? He had 4 hits yesterday.
Yeah, he's had, I think, I can double check, but I know for sure he's had at least since May 15th, he's had 2. Yeah, he did Sunday. He went 4 for 5 with 3 runs, a double, homer, and 3 RBIs.
Right. Yeah.
And his last 4-hit game was actually in Houston. He went 4 for 6 in the second game of that series with 1 run, 1 double, a home run, and RBI.
Yeah. But it just goes to show that when you have others around you that can protect, I mean, he's a rookie. You know,
Yeah,
he's the one that they've kind of put the bag behind and are really in support of him being a part of the core future. But it certainly helps when you've got some protection in there, and it just kind of puts you at ease. I mean, you just get better pitches when they can't pitch around you because the guy in front of you or behind you is hitting the ball hard as well. So yeah, hopefully we can continue some success there because you know Harris, they're not spending a whole lot of money, so you really hope the guys that they do invest and put the bag behind, that will at least maybe instill some confidence that, like, okay, we know what we're doing. We feel comfortable spending some money because we're not, just blowing the bag on just, Javi Baez. I just put it out there, So,
yeah, yeah.
um, because yeah, they give us just those glimpses every once in a while, and people say we didn't get any bats, but we did get some bats. I mean, Mark Cannon, we went out and got Mark Cannon, we went out and get Gio Urshela, and they were more so guys who they are. They're veterans. They're going to play solid defense. They're going to make decent contact, but we don't have those guys that it's like, okay, if we get 2-3 runners on, we really got to worry about if he's going to take us out of the park, or if there's nobody on, we just got to keep the ball in. We just got to we pretty much know the ball staying in the ballpark. So
Yeah.
that's what we really need, is some guys that can consistently hit the ball out of the park. So some of these singles with 2 runners on are now 3-run home runs, because it just makes all the difference when you have the threat of blowing the game wide open with one swing of the bat. So yeah, I mean, I think we all know that guys like Canna and Urshela are short temporary fixes. They're up there in age, so we just need to find some guys, whether they're guys coming up through our system, or guys that we can really drop some money on, that can give us that offensive explosion that we need to put with the pitching, so that they're not going up there feeling like, if I give up a couple runs early in the game, it's over. I may not lose, but I'm certainly not going to get a decision off of it, because,
Right.
you almost got that, oh, here we go
Here we go
again.
again.
It's 2-0. We're only going to score one more run because we've lost by 2-1 so many times this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's
Yeah.
my rant about the offense and the power. What type of roster updates do we have going on?
Yeah, it's been fairly light in terms of injuries and transactions officially. A lot of the stuff that's been happening in the last week or so has been tied to internal promotions, some rehab assignments, Fiedo, Jackson Job. We'll start with a promotion, some more positive here. After he was named, I believe, Player of the Week, Patrick Lee was promoted from Low A Lakeland to High Class A West Michigan. Um, so that was good to see. Jackson Job pitched 3 innings in his last rehab start. Perfect. No hits, no walks. Dial it in. Looked great. So I think they're waiting to see if they're going to have him throw another one before he returns to, I believe he was at AAA Toledo, if
I
I'm
think
not
he's at
mistaken,
double.
or
No,
Double A
no.
Erie.
It might be triple.
But
He got
I
hurt
think
so
it's
early
AAA
in the year,
because
I can't remember where he
he
started.
because his Double A his rehab start was wearing
I think it was in
could have been
Lakeland.
what? Yeah, it could have been single A, so that would make sense. And Erie would still be a possibility, but other than that, Kerry Carpenter was supposed to start, essentially resume baseball activities today from his lower lumbar spine injury. So that seems to be on track so far. Keeping our fingers crossed, because honestly, I think he's one of the bats that, frankly, this lineup kind needs to help stabilize. Some of the other guys have tried to carry some of his ability that just hasn't happened consistently in that regard. But again, most of the stuff that we've seen has been rehab assignments, guys going down, up, being promoted, obviously tied to some of the movement that the parent club, the Tigers, have been doing over the last few weeks. So, but that's it in terms of official transactions. No new signings or free agent assignments made.
All right, and we're gonna get right into the farm system. You kind of touched on Jackson Jobe. He had a seamless start or pitching appearance in single A. So that's encouraging to see, just because he's been out for quite some time with that hamstring injury. Outside of that, the Toledo Mud Hens had their own fair share of an offensive breakout on Sunday. They scored 20 runs on Sunday. So everybody kind of got a piece of the action. Meadows hit a home run. Dylan Dingler hit 2 home runs. Eddie's Leonard has been had a really, really good week. He's been on fire, kind of catching his stride from the injury that he had. Ryan Velade continues to hit consistently. He's hitting 318 this year. And Torkelson has definitely hit a snag as of late. I think they gave him a couple days off, but like I said, everybody
Snag is being generous.
Yes, no, yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't even know what the numbers were, but it was pretty wild. But like I said, everybody hit around on yesterday, but Torque went 1 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. So he was one of the lone guys that didn't get off yesterday.
I'm sorry, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't got an opportunity to go down to Toledo or anything, and I haven't saw much footage. So it's got to be it's got to be tough to just experience and watch and just to see from afar, because his confidence has got to be shot. I mean, he's hitting 246 in Toledo with I don't know how many strikeouts. It's just got to be like nothing is going right now. Like,
and the guys they got up right now that have split time over the last few years between the parent club and AAA, guys like Badu, they hit down there. They're
yeah.
270, 280, 290. It's not like they're incapable of doing it, but yet you look at a number 1 overall pick who tore it up over the last 3.5 months last year at the major league level with 20 plus home runs after late June, early July, before the All-Star break. And yet he is the only one that really couldn't rake in that game where everyone else was popping off. I mean, yeah.
And once again, Navigato, keep an eye out for him. Twitter's already is already in the chatter, and I can see why he's not getting the, it's kind of like Velade. Velade has hit all year long. It was a small sample size, so I think he ended up not hitting. His average wasn't great when he got sent back down, but because he is an older guy and he doesn't have any of the attractive, features and tools. He's 5'11", 188 pounds. He's 26 years old, so his
recruiting profile, I guess we'll say, or player profile, it's not as hyped up. Yeah,
absolutely. So I understand why they're not just rushing him to the majors, but you hit for long enough, and on the other hand, they don't hit for long enough. You got to wonder how does McKinstry continue to, outside of just being one of the coaching favorites and the longevity portion of it, that's obviously one of the reasons.
Look, Toledo's got a good hitting coach down there. Sorry to interrupt real quick, but Mike Hessman owns a record for most games played as a Toledo Mud Hen.
Right.
And he holds several offensive total records in their AAA or AAA team as a whole. So it's certainly not attributed to a lack of coaching experience from the hitting department, because Hessman has always been for many years widely considered one of the best minor league slash AAA hitters probably in the last 15, 20 years. So I know he didn't make too many appearances with the Tigers during his professional playing career, but man, he could rake down there. So, but yeah, these guys have someone that's done there, been there, done that, proven it to help guide them. So
Absolutely, and it just makes you wonder. It's like, is this just some level of stubbornness on the behalf of Torkelson? I know you know, admittedly was kind of embarrassed when he got sent down there, but it's like it's just really looking like, this may be the end, of the road, and he's just ready for a whole new change of scenery down there, because you just hope that he would hit the ground running in the way that a Meadows um, has, who was also a part of the 25-man roster at the beginning of the year,
yeah,
because he very well could have been discouraged and let that affect him. But he's outside of maybe the very beginning of his stint down there. He's been pretty consistent as far as hitting for power, hitting for average, of course stealing bases, and I would assume playing impeccable defense as he has in
yeah,
as he has in the major leagues. So I'm ready. I'm ready for another shakeup. Of course, that the the when you score 13 runs on a Sunday, because I feel like had we fallen flat on Sunday, lost that series, and scored one or two runs, I feel like it would have went down. But
yeah.
because another one of those janky lineups that looked terrible on paper, because we've seen it before where it was like, this is not, but dude, McKinstry and Rogers back to back is not going to work. And sure enough, 12
Yeah.
runs, 13 runs. It just, I don't it's mind boggling, but
Hey,
we're going to, yeah, go
everyone
ahead. Go ahead.
between the parent club and AAA was hitting except Torkelson. Two teams, and Torque was the only one that still wasn't hitting. Come on, man.
Yeah. Between, yeah. Both teams and even the opposing team got it. They scored 9 runs too. Everybody got a piece of the action, but Torque's like, I got a
Yeah.
single for you. I got a sharp single for you. But he did walk though. He did walk.
Uh,
But
yeah. Last time I checked, walk is in 4 bases. So
right, absolutely not. But we're gonna get to a break, and then we are going to talk some trade stuff. All right. So we all know this is that time of year. The hot topic is the trade block. Um, Obviously, they've already come out and basically said that we will be sellers at the deadline. Are there any particular players that you have your eye on that could possibly be on the move? And are there any sleepers, guys, that haven't been talked about, but you feel there is some consideration to them being moved at the break?
yeah, kind of ease into it. Kind of on the back end of the Torkelson thing. I know he's mentioned briefly the change of scenery might be good for him. I know it's a 1 year deal. We all know that he's not making much, 700 plus K. Another guy who we thought may have been a stabilizer who was left off the start of the season. He's made some appearances. Hasn't been in the last handful of weeks. Matt Manning. Hey, he's struggling. He is struggling in Toledo.
Yeah,
He's 2-2 in 7 games as a starter, with another in relief appearance. 5.68 ERA, 40 hits, 38 innings pitched, 24 earned runs, which tells me he's giving up an earned run almost every 2 hits, almost every, which means he's
that's
given
crazy.
up a plethora of extra base hits to AAA hitters. And teams are batting 274 against him, which is not anywhere good, especially AAA level is, that's
It's a
it
gap.
doesn't necessarily scream confidence. He's got a 1.39 whip. His strike to walk ratio is the only really good stat out there right now, which is a little bit better than 3-1 strikeouts to walks. So his control's there, which tells me that he is just living within the strike zone, and these hitters are making him pay for it. So I think maybe a little bit more chase pitches, some out pitches, try and get guys to whiff on not strikes. Might be a little bit better recipe. I don't know. I'm not a pitching coach. Don't quote me. But I think in addition to him and Torkelson, I think not even necessarily a trade. If we do, that's one thing. But Carson Kelly and Jake Rogers seem to be almost the exact same type of player and catcher. Jake is a little bit better defensively, but he's hitting a bit worse offensively. Carson had a little bit of show yesterday. He chipped in a lot with that outburst offensively, but I don't really see a need why I need to carry two of the same type of catcher, especially when you got a guy like Dan Dingler down there who's been absolutely mashing the ball. So I think Jake might be one just by casualty of depth and who's playing better below him. So it happens in every sport, but I don't. Him and Kelly, I don't see a reason why they both need to be on the same lineup, same roster together at this point in time. But in terms of other names for the trade block, like you said, I heard on it was made public on the Foul Territory Pod show with AJ Pierzynski and a couple other former major leaguers who have heard directly from the front office for the Tigers that Jack Flaherty will not be a Tiger after the trade deadline. He
Whew,
is.
it's crazy.
It's not a matter of if; it's just a matter of who he goes to. And I get that. We kind of felt like, and I think we talked about it too before we even started this show. Heading in opening day, that he probably would be a guy that if he does well enough, him and Maeda, I think, were the two that we kind of touched on. That if they were pitching well and we were not really in a playoff race of any kind, that they would probably be at the forefront of that trade rumor list. And I think that's at least um, for Flaherty, that's a very. It's now it looks like assuredly it's a done deal. It's going to happen. So, but I think
And
Torkelson, if he go ahead,
I was just because I wanted to make a point right then and there, and I guess it's unfortunate because with Maeda, there's two reasons why it's unfortunate that Maeda has the 2 year as opposed to Flaherty. For one, I feel like since we have come to the decision that we're going to make that move, I feel like we could have got more for him if he wasn't a rental.
yeah,
They
I
would
agree,
at
one hundred
least be
percent.
able to say we have one more year of control. So
Yep.
because I feel like the value with as good as he's pitching, I feel like there is value there. But when they have to concern themselves with re-signing him at the end of next year at the end of the year at a much higher price, I would assume, than we got
Mm-hmm.
him. It's going to limit his value a little bit. Instead, we're stuck with a guy, Ken Maeda, who he still might be worth DFAing when it's all said and done. So
Yeah.
that's unfortunate, but I also think it's kind of crazy that they think there's just no world where it makes sense to re-sign Flaherty. Like what? Like why is that why is that just so? He's pitching as good as he did when he was a Cy Young candidate. As far as I'm concerned, he's just missing the run support.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that kind of goes what we've talked a bit offline too, and I think a lot of Tiger fans out there know already that it seems that the ownership is they're dedicated to the rebuild, but let's just call it. I'll be a little gentle about it. Cheap. He's being cheap. So if they're still going to try, he mentioned publicly too that Scott Harris said that we'll try to move Baez, but it's going to be one bad contract for another bad contract. So you're not really gaining anything if you're able to get rid of Baez in that regard, because you're still going to have to pay another player who's equally as bad to go out there and suck. It just depends what position. Now, if
Yeah.
you trade a shortstop for a shortstop, at this point, you may as well keep him, and if you're going to do that, because you've built your marketing around him after Miggy
Being
retired last year.
yeah.
And other than Skubal and Torkelson and Green, who had been the name faces that they wanted to try and PR around heading into opening day. Well, you're down Torkelson, probably not going to be a Tiger at the end of the year when his contract's up. So now you're kind of, it's more of an organizational thing, but now who are you going to market around? So you trade Baez too in that regard for another bad player that the fans probably aren't going to care about as nearly as much, if at all. Now you've really lost a lot of the interest in the fans heading into the second half of the season, and you got really nothing to show out there for it. So, but yeah, I mean, guys, we said Torkelson. I think if he gets involved in a trade, it's going to be in a package deal, kind of like what we did with Castellanos and was it Daniel Norris we sent to the Cubs since I think it was 2019. We traded those two away together because we trade Torkelson. We're probably just getting cash back. That's it.
Yeah.
Like a credit card or debit card swap. You're getting 2% cash back. That's
Right.
about all we're getting at this point.
Yeah, I mean his
As long
contract
as
is not worth. Yeah.
well, no, and he's hitting $180 in Toledo.
Right.
Like, come on. Like,
Right.
if he was batting 250, 270 and hitting, we'll say 1.5 home runs a week or 1 1/3 home runs a week in Toledo, okay, we might be able to get a decent prospect back. But right now, we'll be lucky to get the damn dust out of the bottom cabinet drawer back at this point from him, as it is on his own. But I think if he does go, it would be in a package deal with someone else in the parent club right now. I think Olson, Manning, Gio, Andy Ibanez, Mark Canna potentially. You're looking at a top 4 or 5 team that just wants a little bit of depth, veteran depth, guy he's got playoff experience. He's been there. I think he could be a good candidate. And I think from a pitching standpoint, I still have to think Skubal is not untouchable at this point because, and again, I know we talked about it. I said it last week. It's a hot take. He's already had one Tommy John. He's in his mid-20s. When his contract's up, let's just say he ends healthy, right, on the current contract. He might be good for one max contract, and that's it. So,
yeah.
In line
and he's struggled the last couple outings. I don't know if it's the last 2 in a row, but he got took yard a couple times against Atlanta, and he certainly hasn't won in a couple.
That's also a team, though. The core of that team has been together for 4 or 5 years now. Ozzie Albies, Acuna, to a degree up until Freddie Freeman left the other year. Travis d'Arnaud, Max Fried. I mean, they got a list of guys that have been in that team for more than 3 or 4 years collectively already, if not longer than that. But you go up against a team like that, I would expect him to struggle a little bit. I mean, I would have been thoroughly impressed if he had dotted them up like he had been almost everyone else. But I think in the long run it'll help him. But if they were to trade him, they'd get an absolute haul for him, and they wouldn't have to risk potentially paying him to then maybe go down with another Tommy Johns or another serious injury that knocks him out for another year or so of his service time, and then they're stuck with essentially another bad contract for a guy who's now on the decline with a much shorter shelf life. But other than that, I think Will Vest and Foley are also potential trade candidates, teams that are looking to shore up their bullpen, 7th, 8th inning guys. They're out there, they're doing it. This bullpen collectively, long relief all the way through the back end, they've logged a lot of innings this year. So there's no shortage of experience and innings pitched out there between all these guys. They've all pitched in different situations. So I think that makes them a little more attractive from a opposition's GM standpoint when they're looking to maybe get another piece or another arm or two. So I think all those guys I just mentioned are legitimate candidates, and I think to a degree, I mean, possibly Casey Mize, maybe, but he's been
He's pitching
struggling
right now.
too. He's been struggling too. He's young, so you might get something back for him, but I would be remiss if Scott Harris isn't at least willing to hear uh, propositions for all the players that were previously mentioned. Obviously, Scuba would be the highest return on the investment collectively, but if they were to package one or two of those other guys, I think they would definitely be able to get some decent pieces or picks back together in that regard.
Right. And the game is already kicked off. McKinstry has already booted a routine ground ball.
Gotta love it.
Actually hit by you, Schwarber. And now they're already threatening first and third right now. But we're gonna get into the last break, and then we are gonna talk about who we have coming up, and then we are gonna wrap this thing up. All right. So, who do we have coming up this week to look forward to?
Well, as you mentioned, we just kicked off a three-game, the last home series where we hit the road here against the Phillies. Mine's against Aaronola tonight, right now, live. Tomorrow night it is Scooble against the NL front runner Cy Young candidate and Ranger Suarez, who is absolutely down. He's putting up better numbers than Scooble, which is crazy, but. And then game three, Flaherty will go against our former longtime Tiger, Spencer Turnbull, in the Wednesday matinee game before we start a long three-series road trip, including a brief stint out in Los Angeles against the Angels, where it'll be Kenta Maeda, Olson, and then Casey Mize, ending with the daytime matinee. It's a four-game series with Scooble. Before they head back regionally to take on the Minnesota Twins for three, ending on the July 4th matinee game. That'll be Flaherty, Maeda, Olson, and then heading into the weekend, they will go down to Ohio to face the Reds for 3 games before returning home.
All right, yet another pretty tough stretch. Well, the Angels might be able to do
I
some.
ain't holding my breath anymore. We almost
Right.
lost that series to the White Sox, and it doesn't get much lower than that. So, I ain't gonna hold my breath yet. But um, from a record standpoint, they have struggled a bit against the AL West or the West Division teams, whereas the rest of the major league divisions they've been right around 500. It's the only division where they've struggled a bit as of yet. Yeah.
Well, might be a long series. It is already 4-0 over there. It looks like the Phillies are gonna score a lot of runs. But yeah, we got three straight series on the road. Doesn't sound too fun. Certainly got to find something to do on the weekend or around here because nothing to do besides go to a Tigers game. But
Hey, I got another option. Local tomorrow night.
perfect parlay. Go ahead.
Yeah, tomorrow night at Jimmy John Stadium up in Utica. For those that are in Southeast Michigan, the annual All-Star High School baseball game between the Oakland Activities Association Conference and the Macomb Area Conference. All-Star game is tomorrow at 7 p.m. Tickets are $10 or $5 if you're a senior or a veteran. So if you're interested in going out, showing off sports, seeing some young high schoolers that have some really good potential, most of them playing some type of college ball, if they're graduated this year or being recruited to play some college ball. I've been very lucky over the last handful of years to umpire a lot of these, really majority of these kids that are going to play and seeing them in some summer tournaments. So if you don't really want to go down and see the Tigers get their butt kicked tomorrow potentially, even though Scooble is on the bump, I recommend you head on up to Jimmy John Stadium to watch the MAC and OAA 2024 All-Star game.
All right, so there you have it. This is going to wrap up the show. Please subscribe for all visual content on Bleachers to Speakers. And we are obviously on all streaming platforms at Corner to Copa. It seems like the trades have slowed, not the big trades or anything like that, but it seems like they are the wheels are beginning to turn and the transactions are starting to be made. So we will certainly keep you guys up to date on that. And I kicked off the player profile segment. I think I did Andy Ibanez and Matt Vierling thus far. But I'll be doing some more of those as well. And maybe we can convince Coach to get out there and do some player profiles as well. But yeah, we will be back next week. Next week sometime, probably on Monday again. So I appreciate everybody that tuned in. We had a couple live viewers, but we will be back soon.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Hold on.